The following podcast is a presentation of Project Entertainment Network.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second part of the Recreational Critics Podcast Quickies, where we go over movie of the week very quickly. This movie is Quantum of Solace, the second Daniel Craig James Bond movie. So James, are you ready to get into it?
Let's party.
All right, so we're going to go into Quantum of Solace, and James is real quick going to give us the plot of the movie.
Ooh, just jumping right in there.
I thought you were ready for it.
I was pretty much ready for it.
Okay, we're just going to keep waiting patiently.
Do. So I was looking up something else about it, and I accidentally used the same tab.
Great.
Yeah, I kind of messed up.
You dummy.
I know. It happens.
So the second James Bond movie of the Daniel Craig franchise, and essentially there was a writer's strike going on during this movie, so it gets a lot of flack for being the worst of them, only because a lot of people gave up on the movie very early in the development phase of it, and then came back very late in it, and they had to push the movie out for that reason.
Yeah. So the IMDb description is, James Bond descends into mystery as he tries to stop a mysterious organization from eliminating a country's most valuable resource. Yep.
All right, and that most valuable resource is?
Water.
Water. You think it's oil, but it's water. So this very secret organization, for those that have seen the old James Bond movies back in the 70s and 80s, maybe 60s too. Spectre is in the 60s, right? Is Spectre, but they call it Quantum in this because they didn't own the rights to Spectre anymore.
Yes.
So that's where the universe, the continuity gets real fucked up, is they have to rename it Spectre in the fourth movie because they finally bought the rights at that point. So it's called Quantum, but it's actually Spectre. It's the same shit. And he is immediately following Casino Royale.
Yes.
Immediately, like next day, 2 days later, some shit like that.
There's no gap in the time.
Right. So he goes to Venezuela or Dominican Republic or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And he's tracking this basically, what is it? Green, like a green company, like one of those environmental companies. And this guy's dealing with some really shady people in like the works, like generals and dictators and stuff like that. So he's tracking them, and he eventually finds out through, James Bond work that this guy is trying to take oil from this, what country is that? It's a South American country, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't
It doesn't
remember.
stick out in my mind, and I don't know why.
Ecuador? Bolivia. It's Bolivia.
Yeah.
So he's in Bolivia, and he thinks they're trying to take Bolivia's oil, right? So he's working with this general to stage a coup to get Bolivia's oil, for money reasons. Come to find out, it's actually for water, because there's a water reserve in Bolivia that the country doesn't even know about, and it's a massive oil, water reservoir that would just, completely change their economy, for the better, for the worse, or whatever. And this company wants in on that so they can start making the money off that water, because people are starving there and dehydrated and stuff like that. And so by the time James Bond figures that out, he's already in James Bond mode, trying to save the day with the help of someone else who has a personal vendetta
against one of the generals.
Against the general trying to stage a coup. Yep.
So what do you? Did you have a problem with this movie?
So I have a few problems with it, and they don't really work on the story a whole lot. It's very rushed, and it has a lot of lulls.
Yeah.
In it. Mathis makes a resurgence. He's in the first one, and James Bond apologizes for
having him tortured
and interrogated because he thought he was a traitor when it really wasn't him.
Yeah.
I also didn't like the quantum thing. I know they worked with what they had, but it upset me. You could have just left that whole bit alone.
Yeah.
You didn't need him being tied into this organization that Lashif is tied into and Mr. White's tied into and all that stuff. It could have just been a guy trying to make personal gain. The Pierce Brosnan movies did that, and it worked. So
I think they just wanted more from this franchise.
They did, and that's what they were leading up. And
I think they knew where they wanted to end up, because even at this point, they were trying to buy the rights to Spectre.
Right. Which I don't remember where they got tied up in that, but they eventually got it.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason they got it is because of backlash from this movie. This movie got a lot of backlash on, like, come on, guys, you guys are ruining the Spectre timeline and stuff like that. And so the guy who owned Spectre folded and handed it over to the Ion Studios or production company or whatever the hell makes these movies. And they didn't do a whole lot more backstory into Bond. And the Vesper boyfriend at the end was just out of place.
Yeah.
They don't talk about it at all during the movie. In the very end, he shows up to Vesper's boyfriend's apartment, and kills him.
Yep.
And I was like,
does he kill him or just have him arrested?
Maybe.
M's there. I think he's just
M's
arrested.
there. Yeah. Oh, you're right, because they have agents go inside after him. Yeah.
Because he's doing it to another
girl who's in charge of the Canadian intel, whatever. Yep. That guy's job, he works for Quantum or Spectre, and his job is to make people in higher positions, but not high enough, but just that middle ground.
Just high enough to know stuff.
To know stuff and be able to sway things their way. He makes them fall in love with him, acts like he's getting kidnapped and tortured, so that way they work for Spectre at that point.
Yep.
And,
do you think if they would have crushed this movie, it would have made Spectre better?
Yeah. If this would have been Spectre to begin with, it would have made Spectre better. Because the thing people hated about Spectre is they rushed into it.
Yeah.
Because they didn't really rush into it, because this movie should have been the lead into Spectre. But the problem was you had this movie, and then you had Skyfall, which had nothing to do with Spectre at all. No Mr. White, no mention of an organization, nothing. Just Silva doing Silva things.
Yeah.
And then Spectre. It broke the continuity of what I felt like they wanted from the beginning. So that's what it kind of sucked about.
I only think this movie is quote unquote bad when you compare it to Casino and Skyfall.
Yep. Because it doesn't hold up to those movies.
Because this movie is better than any Pierce Brosnan Bond except GoldenEye.
Yeah, I agree. Because Pierce Brosnan Bond movies fell off really quick.
Yeah.
The only thing that GoldenEye didn't had that I hated was that fucking weirdo chick at the beginning. That weirdo chick villain who was all about having sex while killing her. You remember?
Kinda, yeah.
Xena Onatop.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would squeeze her abdomen and moan while she killed them.
Yeah.
You're fucking weird.
Yeah.
You're a weird lady. Do you know that?
Yeah. So there was a writer's strike going on while this movie was being written.
Yeah. And a lot of movies got shafted because of this. There was a 2007, 2008 writer's strike, and it ruined a lot of movies.
Yep. So they originally had a script and then changed directors, and then he wanted a new script.
Yep.
And then the writer's strike happened, and Daniel Craig ended up doing some of the writing.
Yep.
But it just ended up kind of weird.
It was a very weird movie that didn't feel complete at points.
So
the way they killed the villain, though, was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he drives him out to the middle of the desert and gives him a gallon of motor oil.
Yep.
And says, "I'm sure you'll go half a mile before considering drinking that." And they found him with oil in his... No. They found him with oil in his stomach and 2 gunshots in his head.
Yes.
Because they determined that Spectre came out, or Quantum came out and found him and killed him.
Yep.
So, that's right. I wish Spectre would have been better. Not the movie, but the overall organization. Because I hint at it in Casino Royale. Because Mr. White's there and he talks about an organization that Le Chiffre works for. Mm-hmm. And
if they just would have dropped maybe 2 or 3 breadcrumbs in Skyfall.
Yep. They dropped none.
Yeah.
And that's what really, really sucked about it. There wasn't a single mention of an organization or anything. Yep. It was like an anthology film.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Skyfall is amazing. I'm not saying that it should have done something, but it would have tied the franchise together a little bit better.
Yep. And I think Spectre even had Silver tied into it.
It did.
Right. But you shouldn't have.
Yeah.
They did that really...
Silva could have just been an anomaly.
Yep. One of those things Bond just happens to run into.
Yeah. Rather than Bond's problem, it was an M problem.
Right. Which it was.
Yeah.
So, I like this movie a lot.
I did as well.
But
it's definitely the lowest on the Daniel Craig Bonds.
Mm-hmm.
But I still don't think it's a bad movie.
Right. I give this movie a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
So, that's it. Quick little quickie.
Yeah, you guys should watch it. Give it another chance now that...
Yeah. You heard our point of view on it. Because we're the end-all be-all on movie reviews, as everyone knows. So
this movie does, one of those things that you're not supposed to do as a movie. You're supposed to make sure that every scene progresses something. Mm-hmm. And this movie doesn't do that. They didn't have enough time to write. They didn't have writers.
Yeah, because Mathis gets killed and doesn't do anything for the movie at all.
I think it changes Bond's.
It makes it more of a personal vendetta.
Yeah.
For him, but then that's weird to me because the chick he's with already had a personal vendetta, right? And then they give him another personal vendetta by pouring oil on the chick that he was sleeping with from the organization. So, you know what I mean? They threw in way too many personal vendettas for Bond to get involved.
Too many reasons.
Yeah, it's like you didn't need that. He was already involved. He was already like a 00 got killed at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I think that's another movie with a 00 that gets killed at the beginning.
Yep. That
you just don't know about. They don't talk about him at all. But
hopefully the next Bond movie goes into it a little bit more.
No Time to Die. There'll be no time to write a script.
But,
all right. That's it for me. Anything for you?
No. Go watch it.
All right. See you guys next week.
Have a good one.
This has been a presentation of the Project Entertainment Network.